Minecraft can already take a long time to complete. Beating the game could easily take 30 hours, or just a few minutes for some people. Some maniacs even go for an 100% completion of the game's achievements, which can take weeks to finish. But all of that doesn't even get close to GregTech New Horizons, a mod pack that takes an estimated 10 to 15,000 hours for a full completion. GTNH is touted as the last Minecraft mod pack you'll ever need. With crafts that can take months and whole new insanely complicated game mechanics to learn, it's one of the toughest and most complex mod packs in Minecraft. Last time I played this mod pack, I rushed as fast as possible to make it to the MV age, to complete my arbitrary goal of collecting 44 million cobblestone. This is very different from how the pack is usually played, and I got a lot of feedback about that. So now, I'm submitting to the woke mob and decided that it's time to catch up. I'm starting in the MV age, and retroactively going back to 100% every past quest that I skipped, and I'll be doing that as fast as possible. I would have to complete over 250 quests for this, some taking a crazy amount of effort and time, so I was in for a long grind. I figured there was only one place to start and began with a tutorial quest that I missed. My journey started with crafting a wooden spear, and then throwing it away. A lot of these early quests would consist of making items and getting rid of them since I had such a head start from the last video. I needed to grab some materials from other biomes, and luckily I was starting with a good amount of gear, so I took off using my glider. I searched the land until I found some bamboo and mud in a jungle, quicksand in a desert, and grapes from these gardens.
Oh, that's grape.
I got back home, cooked those grapes into raisins, and made some stone stairs. With that out of the way, I had already finished all of the tutorial quests on this mod pack. Next up was the Stone Age. I started with making a scythe, trading some wood for some cactus, and making a short bow. The tools that these early quests had me make kinda sucked compared to what I had available, but I was excited for later upgrades, considering I was still using an iron sword as my main weapon this late into the game. I moved on to making throwing knives, which I quickly learned how to use.
What?
After that, I made cactus and sugar coke in my coke furnace, then tried making punji sticks out of sugarcane. Of course, I had just used most of my sugarcane on that coke, so I took what I had left and made a small farm with it. You can't use bone meal on sugarcane on this version of the game, so I had to wait. Yeah, that was boring, so I started working on other quests. My chests were filling up with bullshit fast, so I upgraded those, accidentally completing a future quest. I also made some bronze javelins, which were not very good. The sugarcane was still doing its best, so I started making pressure plates and buttons. Even though this was pretty early game, crafting these was tedious as hell. I'm sure this was as bad as it was gonna get though. Next, I made an XP drain so I could store my experience in a tank. Next, I needed to make a sleeping bag, but this required tan leather. This stuff was always a pain to make due to the string, cotton, and leather cost, and the time it took to dry. As luck would have it, I was all out of string, so I went and planted more cotton on my farm, and now I was waiting on 2 crops to finish growing. I moved to building a dispenser, which, believe it or not, was annoying.
God, that one sucked so bad.
All I needed for the next quest was 2 potatoes, so it was back to grinding the gardens. Finding the root variant of the gardens in the first place took forever, then of course getting the potatoes did too.
Nope. Oh, thank God.
Luckily, after that monumentous grind, my crops had finished growing, so I made some bound leather and hung it up to dry. I made the punji sticks with the sugarcane, used the tan leather to make the sleeping bag, and then dried more tan leather to make a variety of backpacks that I needed to craft. I also made shad out of the sugarcane, made more tan leather to make a saddle, crafted a few pieces of furniture, and a bronze mattock, then it was on to collecting skystone. I needed 256 of this stuff, which came from fallen meteors. I had found a few around the world already, but couldn't remember if I mined them all, so I ventured out and visited the sites I already found and got as much of the skystone I could still find lingering around them. After looking for more meteors for around an hour, I got a feeling I should go back home and check how much I had stored away before looking for any more.
There is no fucking way.
Yeah, I'm brain dead. I only needed like 5 more when I started the quest. At this point, I only had 3 more small grinds to finish off this quest age. First, I had to mine a full redstone vein for the rubies and the cinnabar that it contained. I then processed the redstone into different forms, then collected 128 redstone dust at once to complete the redstone grind. For the second big grind, I just had to make a wind meter and then a windmill rotor, which required a bunch of leather, wool, and paper. I went and grinded those materials out and crafted the blade that I needed, made the rotor, and tossed that shit into a box never to be seen again. The final quest I had to do to finish the Stone Age was a big one. I had to collect a ton of animal drops, so I figured it was time to make a farm. I hollowed out a hole in the side of a mountain and built Monsanto-akin prisons for different animals. Luckily, I had a golden lasso from earlier questing, which allowed me to pick up each of the animals instead of dragging them around like normal. I didn't want to sit there and manually feed every animal, so luckily I found out about the feeder blocks. I made these by pouring molten gold over carrots to make golden carrots and crafted the feeders with them. I loaded those up and waited for the animals to get submissive and breedable. After what seemed like an eternity, I started collecting the drops that I needed. This took way longer than it should have, and I'm pretty sure that it would have just been faster to hunt them down in the wild, but at least this was low effort. After a few hours, I had collected all the drops that I needed and finished all of the quests in the Stone Age. Well, at least, that's what I thought. The quest book only read 84 out of 85 quests completed. I chalked that up to GTNH being buggy, but after some research, I found out I was wrong. Not so deep in the ground laid mysterious structures known as loot game dungeons. I found a few of these while exploring, but was always too nervous to check them out. For this final quest, I would have to enter one and complete whatever challenge it had in store for me. I had zero idea what to expect in there, so I took my normal gear, praying that it wasn't dangerous, and traveled to the entrance of the dungeon.
I found this a long time ago, and I never really explored it because I was scared, but now I actually have to. There we go. That's kind of crazy. Oh, Minesweeper. Oh. Oh. Fucking sick. Okay.
Luckily, the dungeon was just a game of Minesweeper. Even better, I'm cracked at Minesweeper. With my confidence at an all-time high, I started cracking the puzzles. I finished the first one, and the puzzle restarted with more mines and a higher difficulty, but still nothing for a guy like me. I kept moving like a demon,
Nice.
but like Icarus, I flew too close to the sun, and my cockiness caught up to me.
3, so this one's safe. Scared the fuck out of me. Oh! Oh my fucking god. Don't block the exit. Gotcha.
After that mishap, I went right back in, more focused. A mistake like that would not happen again.
Fuck. Oh, right. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Okay, that shit got kinda hard. But after refining my skills and getting my bearings back, I finally completed the last puzzle.
Done. Yo, that took so long. Silky Jewel, I need one of those.
The loot was surprisingly good for this stage of the game, and this accomplishment meant that I had successfully completed every Stone Age quest. Now it was onto the Steam Age, where everything would be getting more complicated with a lot more quests for me to complete. I figured I should start with the quests that might make the future ones go by faster, so I did every quest that had me upgrade my Steam machines to their steel variants. This took an hour or two, but now these machines would process materials at double their original speed. Next, I had a few mining tasks that hadn't counted before for some reason, so I banged those out real quick and held 64 lapis at once for another quest. I made an iron tank for the next one, which could hold 32 buckets of and since I was crafting with glass anyway, I also made Spectre glass for another quest. Blocks that mobs can see and try to walk on, but fall right through if they touch. I had a feeling this would be useful for future projects and was excited to experiment with it later. My next big quest had 3 steps. First, I needed to make 32 fences, which, of course, the recipe only made one at a time and used a crazy amount of wood. After making all of those, I found out the quest only accepted oak fences. Then I needed a bunch of fish, so I spent the next half hour doing that. Then it was on to the cool part. I traveled back to one of the biomes I found during earlier exploration looking for one thing in specific. A cat.
Oh. Yeah, let's go!
I also got a dog on the way home, not for a quest or anything, just for me. Arriving home, I got cracking on some of the more tedious crafting tasks, like one that wanted me to make 16 barrel upgrades at once. I just broke my existing barrels to extract the upgrades out of them. I also made pressure plates, then buttons out of those plates. Of course, I had to mess that up at least once.
Oh my I need to get fucking shot in the head.
I made a ton of pistons for drawer upgrades, using up a painful amount of steel, which was still very slow for me to make. For one of those upgrades, I needed gold, but I used the last of my supply when I made golden carrots. So I went and mined a whole vein, ran the ore through a macerator to double the amount I got, grinded it again, and made them into powder, smelting the powder and pressed them into sheets to finish these upgrades. After all that trouble, I realized I had gold in an outside chest the whole time.
Oh my god.
I crafted a key for the drawers, a filing cabinet, a tank I need for later, a Sterling water pump to make water faster if I ever needed to, a trash can, and a name remover. Thank God I made the trash can, considering most of this stuff would go straight in there. I then made a watering can, which surprisingly was the most useful thing out of all of these. This allowed me to make crops grow faster if I sat there watering them, which meant I didn't have to wait around for crops to grow anymore. After that, I made a stockroom catalog, then steel tool heads, a reinforcement upgrade for tools, and a workbench backpack. With all those quests out of the way, it was onto the important ones. My first order of business was a trip to the Nether. I had a lot of quests that needed various resources from there, so I got ready for hell. The Nether in GTNH is fucked. Tons of the enemies are infernal mobs, monsters with special abilities that increase their deadliness exponentially, and everything from the animals to the vegetation wants to kill you. I died many times the last time I went into the Nether, and I didn't want to repeat that same cycle. I started the journey with finding half a stack of nether quartz. Then it was on to finding trees. The Nether has its own ecosystem with various types of trees that I needed to collect the wood, leaves, and saplings of. Bloodwood was everywhere, so I found one of those instantly. Then Darkwood was easy, along with Ghostwood. Then the problem started. Fusewood. I couldn't find that tree anywhere, and the more I searched, the sketchier things got. I was hesitant to move too far from the portal, since if I died, I wouldn't have my glider or the rest of my gear to recover my body with, and traversing the Nether was awful. While on my search, I collected 10 glow flowers, completing another quest. After 30 more minutes of searching, I spotted something.
Please tell me it's here. Is that it? That looks like it. Oh my god, it's Fusewood. Okay, you need to drop a sapling. Oh, thank God. I needed 4 saplings for the quest to be done, and despite my prayers, the tree only dropped me 1. I got back to safety and planted the tree, and by some miracle, I got the amount of saplings that I needed. To finish this quest and escape the Nether, I just needed a potash apple from the Darkwood trees. They're supposed to drop from these white leaves being broken, but it wasn't working. I kept planting these trees and destroying the leaves to no avail. I started thinking these were just broken on GTNH and thought about giving up. Oh! No. Bet. I got out of the Nether, made nether bricks out of netherrack dust, and used them to make a nether furnace. This completed the Nether story arc, and I could move on with my life. Moving on, I made a charcoal pile igniter. This thing allowed me to surround wood and dirt and bricks and then slowly burn the whole pile at once, making charcoal I could collect. This was way faster than other methods I had at the time, making this one especially useful. Back to crafting, I made all the parts for a steam level multi-block, the steam grinder. Like any other multi-block machine, this sucked. Each part took an insane amount of bricks and even more bronze plates. Processing the materials for this machine took forever, but I used a fluid tank thingy I made earlier in one of the last pieces I needed, and I put it all together. Yeah, this thing was insane. This machine acted like a macerator for grinding ores, but could do multiple at the same time, making it as efficient as 8 macerators at once. Making this thing earlier would have saved me hundreds of days on my last video, and a lot of time on this one. I moved on to the last grind I needed to finish, starting with trading in 64 rubber sheets for a hazmat suit. Rubber production was still pretty slow for me at this point, so that was painful. Filled buckets with glue in case I ever needed to repair the hazmat suit, and traded in tin for compressed air to pump into the suit to help me breathe underwater. Lastly, I made a plunger to clear liquid out of pipes. Then, it was time for the final quest of this age. Rarely throughout the world, you can find sky islands made of slime. I say rarely because throughout all my exploration of the world so far, I hadn't found a single one of these. So again, I busted out the glider and traveled as much as possible. I just had to find one of these, and I traveled for hours, exploring new biomes and finding new settlements of villagers, but no sign of the slime island. After way too long, I finally saw something in the distance. Oh my god. Oh my god. Finally, man.
With that, the Steam Age was 100% completed. The LV Age was up next and came with a massive spike in complexity. I had over 100 quests to finish in this age, each potentially taking hours for my first time through. I decided to start off by making bulk amounts of common materials I'd need to really be ready for this grind. I'd have to craft basically every machine available in this age, which would take a nauseating amount of circuits and basic electrical components, so I started off by getting everything needed for the circuit assembler. I got my assembly line warm again by processing a ton of the materials that I need for this machine. Every component required my full attention since the recipes for each part were so specific and took a ton of raw materials. After almost an hour of working on this craft, I finally made the circuit assembler, finishing a single quest. Technically it counted as 2 since one of the materials was its own quest, but still. I moved on to upgrading my electronics room, adding more gas turbines to run more machines at once using my methane that I accumulated from my automatic tree farm I made last episode. Before I could get into mass circuit creation, I knew I'd also need an insane amount of steel to 100% the LVH. Using my bricked blast furnace setup to fill my steel needs would take way too long, so I went the more complicated route. I took limonite dust and stripped the oxygen off of it and put the stored oxygen into my electric blast furnace and smelted raw iron dust into steel. This method required a lot more attention, but sped up my steel production by a ton. I was finally ready and crafted enough low voltage circuits to power a small country, and finally, it was time to cook. I crafted an electric furnace, fermenter, alloy smelter, forge hammer, autoclave, thermal centrifuge, extruder, miner, washer, rock breaker, compressor, extractor, and a combustion generator. I made 32 antimony ingots, unlocking the battery quest line, which led me to making battery holes, an electric canner, and an arc furnace. Somehow, I already ran out of steel, but with this arc furnace, I'd be able to make it even faster. The arc furnace would let me turn iron straight into wrought iron, cutting out multiple steps I was taking for making steel. I spent some time making a ton of steel for the rest of the quests and got back to the grind, making a fluid canner, diode, scanner, seismic prospector, printer, and advanced boiler. That finished off the machines that wouldn't involve much extra work for me, so I moved on to the mining tasks that I still had to complete. With the new miner machine I made, I set it up on one of the veins that I would need to hit for a quest while manually mining others. I collected soapstone, oil sand, mica, and then came back and grabbed the sodium from the miner. I took all the ores back home and processed them into forms that the quest wanted, making lithium, sodium, cadmium, and chlorine. I extracted mercury out of redstone, got sulfuric acid by combining sulfur with oxygen to create sulfur dioxide in a chemical reactor, and adding even more oxygen to create sulfur trioxide and mixing it with water to make the acid. And then I made lubricant from creosote that I got as a byproduct of charcoal production. I quickly completed the transfer pipe quests, including getting transfer pipes, an item transfer node, a fluid transfer node, and world interaction upgrades, most of which I had already made last video. My brain was melting at this point, and I needed to move on to something more fun. It seemed like this section of quests were all materials to make a mob grinder, so I landed on building one of those. I started off with making diamond spikes, which would act like a sword when mobs fell and stood on it, making them drop their items and experience when killed, which could be fed into this vacuum hopper. This thing would grab any experience and items around it and pull it into an inventory. Next, I made an XP shower, which would let me dispense my experience from a tank whenever I needed it. Now, it was time to build it. I experimented with some mob grinder designs in another world and eventually decided to use a combination of platform rings for the mobs to spawn on, then rings of specter glass that I made earlier. Mobs would spawn on the platforms and walk straight through the glass and get funneled down into the center. I built my creation and prayed that it would work, and quickly, I saw results.
Ooh. Jesus.
As great as that was, I realized I was missing the completion of one of the quests of this section. It wanted me to make a diamond dolly, used to pick up mob spawners. That sounded simple enough, until I took a closer look. Uh-oh. For some reason, this item required a nether star plate. The only way to get a nether star is by killing one of Minecraft's hardest enemies and endgame bosses, the Wither. I was woefully unprepared for a fight like that, and this was way out of the realm of what I thought I'd have to do by this point in the quest. To make it even worse, I would need to kill the boss 9 times, since I would need a nether star block to turn it into sheets. I had no idea how I was going to be able to kill the Wither at this point in the game, so I got to work on improving my odds. Now was a perfect time to bust out the quests that led me to upgrading my gear. I started by combining aluminum and magnesium to make magnolium ingots, and used an extruder to form those ingots into crossbow pieces. I then used flame string from nether spiders to craft fiery bowstring. I needed a better crossbow body, but the material I'd need to make it with, ardite from the nether, couldn't be mined with my current tools. I needed a new pickaxe that required new materials from another dimension. I journeyed into the Twilight forest on a quest to find live root. Turns out, the residents of the forest weren't happy about that.
Yep, that's about right. Ooh, that's a lot of shit. Whoa! No! Oh my fucking... Oh! No! Wow! Why? What are you? Fuck off. Please. No. Get me out of here. Fuck. I need a block. Ow. Oh my fucking god. Gah! Oh my god. Don't spawn more. Please don't spawn more. Please don't. Bitch. No. You fucking asshole. What the fuck does live root look like? Oh! Live roots.
It took a hell of a fight, but eventually I stumbled on what I needed. I brought the live root home and mixed it with iron and gold to make ironwood ingots and made those into a pickaxe. I then brought it to the Nether and collected ardite. After finding and processing the ardite ore, I was able to cast the crossbow body and make the weapon. The journey of getting the witherheads for the boss summons alone was going to be a massive challenge. I've been putting off going to the Nether Fortress up until this point, mainly because of the blazes. I forgot to mention one fun quirk of the Nether in GTNH. Every blaze is an infernal mob. Every single one. To prepare for that, I trained with the new crossbow and made powerful bolts to use in it. The bow needed to be broken in a bit to increase its item level and to upgrade these bolts. I also made a cleaver in my preparations, which would give an increased chance of receiving head when killing an enemy, perfect for grinding the witherheads that I needed. With my balls in my stomach, it was finally time for me to start making the trips and start grinding the drops that I needed. The fortresses were just about as deadly as I would have guessed and came with a lot of close calls.
Oh my god. Ow. Oh my god. Wow. Yup. Yup. Oh. Holy fuck. Fuck.
The successor didn't finish what he's...
Thank God.
It took a ton of trips and gear repairs, but eventually I had finally gotten all the heads that I needed and it was time to devise a plan to kill this boss. I moved far from my base and built a small obsidian house to respawn in if things got bad. I couldn't put it off anymore and it was time to finally summon the boss.
I think we're as ready as we're ever gonna be. Alright. I am actually nervous. Okay. I think there's a period where he fucks off for a second. So, I'm just gonna go for it. Fuck it. Yep. Where'd he go? Ah. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh my god. Oh fuck. Potions.
No!
Oh, okay. Ooh. Yeah, that wasn't that bad.
Now armed with the knowledge that the wither ain't shit, I quickly farmed the rest of the stars.
There it is. Woo.
With those fuckers down, I compressed the nether stars into a block and cut it into sheets, allowing me to finish the Dolly quest.
All that for this.
After that whole story arc, going back to crafting was really boring, so I'll save you guys the trouble. I completed a bunch of crafting quests. With those quests out of the way, I only had one more grind to get through, and for that, I needed oil. I grabbed the pump I made earlier and traveled to an oil deposit to pump it out of the ground. I filled up tons of liquid cells with the black gold and returned home to process it into different forms. I started off by turning light sulfuric fuel into light fuel by adding hydrogen to it, turned sulfuric naphtha into naphtha, then sulfuric gas into refinery gas, then refinery gas into propane, which took forever, then refined a ton of sulfuric light fuel into hydrocracked light fuel, then turned that into butane, which took hours of real time. After all that, I turned the butane and propane into LPG, and I only had one quest in LV to finish. This quest required a brewing stand, which you needed to research through the Thaumcraft mod to make. Thaumcraft is a massive magic mod pack that adds a ridiculous amount of content to the game. I knew finishing the Novice Thaumaturgy questline would be impossible at the stage of the game I was at, but for the final goal of this video, I intended to complete every quest that was possible in this section. Needless to say, even the magic mods in GTNH had to be convoluted, with Thaumcraft bringing entirely new systems of elements, items, theories, mechanics, you name it. I would have to learn an entirely new set of game mechanics to complete the quests of this section. My Thaumcraft experience started with me going to the Twilight Forest and killing a raven for its feather, then combining those feathers with glowberries and glowstone to make a magic map focus, and trading that focus with a stack of paper for a magic map. This map would tell me where important structures were throughout the Twilight Forest. Many of these structures were home to bosses that I would have to beat for future quests. The map and quests led me to finding one of these courtyards, home to the Naga, a dangerous snake boss with an even more dangerous name to pronounce. I had no idea how strong it would be, so I just brought my usual gear and went in to fight the boss blind.
Alright. Oh, that's so free. Oh my god. Oh, damn, he kinda hit. Oh, that was so easy. Oh my god.
With the Naga scales I received from the boss, I was able to craft my first wand. This would open up the world of thaumaturgy to me, and led me to making a Thaumanomicon by using it on a bookshelf. This book contained all of the knowledge of magic recipes inside of it, and was basically a second quest book I'd have to manage to unlock other quests in the main one. At this point, the quest book warned me about warp. From what I read, warp was a corruption of the player that accumulates when you research forbidden magic or are careless with magic recipes. This was clearly a big deal since the game tries to warn you about it every step of the way through working with magic, but that sounded like a whole lot of hoopla to me, so I just carried on. I moved on to making a thermometer, which required one of every basic aspect from the mod. I got these aspects from killing enemies around the Twilight Forest, along with mining their complementary ores. The thermometer was used to scan items and blocks for their magical aspects, which I could use later. The questbook suggested scanning a ton of random items, so I went through the list and scanned everything I could find. The last quest I completed while I still had a shred of sanity had me make a table and scribing tool, then turn the table into an arcane work table with my wand. Here, I found out about Research, a minigame in the Thaumcraft mod that's required when trying to unlock recipes from the Thaumanomicon. You have to use the limited aspects you've discovered to connect multiple elements. That completely went over my head when I tried it. I spent forever trying to unlock the next quest item and tried getting everything to connect properly. I researched guides on how this minigame worked, but there wasn't a set recipe you could just follow, so I had no idea what I was doing. After spending so long working on a single recipe, I finally got it to work.
Oh! I did it. Oh.
Only to find out I researched the wrong thing.
Are you fucking kidding me? That was copper the whole time?
Killer wife.
Luckily, I thought to ask my Discord server for help regarding Thaumcraft research. With their resources, I got back to it and went to research the right item. After a bit of a grind, I figured it out enough to complete the research for the gold wand caps.
Oh my god, I did it.
This was the first piece of a puzzle for a line of quests that all led to crafting a stronger wand that I would need. Of course, I couldn't just craft the gold wand caps yet though, that would be too simple. I had to first collect Viz, a different form of basic aspects, into my wand so I could use them for a crafting recipe. My best option for getting this stuff was killing mobs and collecting it like experience, which the mob grinder came in handy for. Finally, I made the caps and it was on to the next step. I researched making the Great Wand core and grinded more Viz for the recipe and made the cores out of wood from a rare tree. The next quest for the wand would send me on another trip to the Twilight Forest to collect lich bones. Since the Naga was dead, the force field around these towers in the Twilight Forest were gone, and I could access the second boss of this progression. These towers were full of powerful enemies, and I'd have to get to the top for a chance to fight this boss. Underprepared, I made my way towards the tower for my first attempt.
There's a lot of shit in there, oh my god. Oh. Wow. Why did I try shooting an Enderman? Oh my god. Please tell me this is the fight. Okay, this is the fight. How do I fight you? No? Wow, you do a lot of damage, don't you? Wow, you do a lot of damage, don't you? What? What? Ow. Wow, I am so low health. Fuck. Oh my god. Oh my god. No. Oh! Ah! Oh my god, I'm so cracked. Oh my god, heal up. Ooh. Bitch! What?
With that close escape, I headed home to regear myself and do more research on the fight. Turns out I was supposed to reflect his attacks back to him and break his shield, so armed with that information, I returned to the tower for my second chance.
I have to attack his balls. Yep. Oh yeah, that's breaking the shields. And it breaks his shields. Okay, his shields are gone. Phase 2. Oh my god, he's getting fucked up. Oh my god, that was free. Thank god. Alright, where are your bones?
With the Lich down, I collected his bones and returned home. Before moving on with the wand, I researched the brewing stand recipe.
Put that in here. Wow.
And made one, which allowed me to make the last machine I needed for the LVH, checking that questline off the list. Back to Thaumcraft, unfortunately I couldn't craft the wand yet since I was missing one part. Stainless steel screws. These were only available late into the MVH, which I didn't have access to at this time. I had no intentions on grinding that far into MV for this project, and luckily, I didn't have to. Some methods for getting stainless steel early were patched out of GTNH a while back, but I found one that still remained in the game. These hilltop chests supposedly had a chance to drop the metal I was looking for, so, yet again, I started my search, surveying the land for hours, looting as many of these chests as I could find. I got progressively more discouraged on my search and started doubting the wiki. I wanted to make sure it was even possible to find the stainless steel in these chests, so I generated a readable loot table file with the Too Much Loot mod. This allowed me to look at every possible item that can be generated in a space in a chest. The hilltop chests used the dungeon chest loot table, so I studied that one and found a bunch of GregTech items without full names. I then tested the metadata tag on the GregTech items that can spawn in the chests until I found the stainless steel. Finding it here told me it was possible to receive it from the chests, but I dug further. The weight value here decides how likely something is to spawn compared to every other resource. Stainless steel had a weight of 10 from this pool, out of a total weight pool of 1,901. So yeah, it was pretty rare. I only had one thing I could do, and got back to the grind. Hours and hours of searching, chest after chest looted. I was so sick of looking for these little circles, but eventually, 10,000 blocks away from my house, my patience paid off.
That's a lot of shit. Oh my fucking god, dude. Oh my fucking god, dude. No, it was me. I did it. It's done.
Once I returned home, I made an MV extruder, turned my prized stainless steel ingots into bolts, and laid them into the screws that I spent so long getting. I made an iron-capped greatwood wand using the screws and lich bones, then grinded the viz to make the gold-capped one. The wand was finally finished, and opened up the rest of thaumaturgy to me. With this wand, I started crafting all of the side Thaumcraft quests, like making these goggles of revealing, which allowed me to see how much viz were inside of containers. It was also at this point where I made a Crucible, which I could use to craft more quest items. Sacrificing items to extract their essentia allowed me to transform certain items into new ones. Using this mechanic, and after a ton of research, I made a greedy chest, a thirsty tank, niter, and alumentum. I traveled to a magical forest biome to get mushrooms that I turned into viz shrooms.
Ooh. Oh, that's not a good sign.
And made an umbral rose bush that grew black roses for unlimited ink. I moved on to making a few of these Essence of False Life items to make enchanted earth, which is when I realized how much I fucking hate this Crucible. It easily overflows if you have too much of the essentia built up in it, leading to some of the most infuriating moments I've had in this game.
Oh, thank god. I need 4?
This built up flux goo, which is a physical form of misused essentia that builds up from being reckless with magic. Of course, I didn't really care at the time, so I just buried it under my house. I kept grinding the quests that used this godforsaken game mechanic and made thaumium ingots and turned some of those into thaumonite to make a helmet. I needed cotton for the next quest, and while farming for some, my recklessness with these magic mechanics started to have some rough effects on my character.
Whoa. What the fuck was that? That was weird.
Ignoring that, I made some enchanted fabric, then a spinning wheel, which let me make this drippy ass outfit.
Wake up, filthy.
And then even more drip. Hundreds of hours into this world, I finally made my first enchantment table, which would come in handy soon. I kept grinding the smaller quests, like finding a silky jewel I got from a quest reward, getting 16 amber from the Twilight Forest, compressing the amber to make an arcane lamp, making 6 different elemental brains, and shattering an avarice pearl I made in the Crucible. Now it was time for the enchantment table to come into play. Back when I killed the Withers, they all dropped this division sigil. This item could be used with an enchantment table for a ritual I'd need to perform for the next quest. I prepared everything that I needed, grabbed a sacrifice, and went to the middle of a field like the instructions told me. I set up the ritual and waited for midnight, with no idea what to expect.
I had no idea what to expect from this. Probably an explosion, because everything has fucking explosions. Oh, is this ready? Time is right, perform the sacrifice. I think I just kill you now? Yeah, I'm gonna kill you now. Whoa! What? What the fuck? Is that it? Oh my god, ow. Ooh.
The ritual gave me a charged division sigil, which I could later use to make unstable ingots. While the ritual's effects were wearing off, I used that silky jewel from earlier on one of my shovels, giving it silk touch, and allowing me to grab some of the leftover cursed earth. This stuff would rapidly spawn stronger enemies on it, so I used it to upgrade my mob grinder. I finished grinding a few of the earlier quests that I skipped over, making potent pipes, traded for a portal generator, collected canopy wood from the Twilight Forest, and brewed potions of night vision. These last two early quests seemed like they would be quick, so I decided to grind them out, and, of course, they were not quick. First, I needed steel leaves, so I used my magic map to find a labyrinth. Yet again, I underestimated what I was walking into.
Ow. Whoa! Oh, whoa, 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 whoa. Ow. Ow. Oh, there's a chest. Whoa. Okay. What is attacking me? Oh! Steel leaf! Oh, that's what I needed. I need more of it. Oh! What is hurting me? I gotta get out. Bro, actually, what is attacking me? Oh no, my freaking piston boots broke. Ow. What is hurting me? Oh my god, it's the fucking lava bucket in my inventory. I'm so stupid.
I geared back up from the fallout of that battle and came back ready to find those leaves.
What? Steel leaf. Why is it black? Why is it black? What?
Luckily, I found the steel leaves that I needed to finish the quest, but I quickly realized I would have to kill the boss of the labyrinth to unlock the materials for the next quest. I'd rather not reveal how long it took me to figure out this maze, but after an ambiguous amount of time, I stumbled upon the Ministroom.
Oh my god, that's it. That's it. That's what I needed. That's the guy. That's the boss. Oh, that was it?
After eating the Ministroom's meef, I could leave the labyrinth, which only took me a few seconds. Before I could go search for the armor shards for the last quest, I need to kill a Hydra, a 3-headed dragon that was supposed to be pretty hard. I tracked down one of the Hydra's lairs and went to work.
What's up, motherfucker? I don't know how to fight this thing. Let's do this, I guess. Thing up. Whoa. Alright, well, that could have been harder.
With the Hydra's head, I moved on to the last area I need to explore. In this covered forest laid another dungeon, which supposedly had the crabs that dropped the armor shards that I was after.
Oh yeah.
While exploring the dungeon, I stumbled across the boss of this area and prepared to fight for my life.
Yep. They're weirdly quiet too.
Yeah, these guys were underwhelming too. I found the crabs I was looking for, collected the armor shards, and these 2 early quests were completed. With that journey wrapped up, I was on to the last grind of this video. All of this Thaumcraft work was leading up to introducing one of the more important game mechanics, and that was Infusion. Infusion would allow me to craft powerful items that would be required for later progression in the pack, and my goal was to unlock it earlier than intended. Before I could do any of that, I needed to build the Infusion altar. I started off by collecting a variety of elemental shards, then combining them into balanced shards. I made shard clusters out of each basic aspect type, which allowed me to make arcane stone blocks, a necessary part of the Infusion altar setup. Next, I just needed to make some of those blocks into bricks, which required an MV precision laser engraver. Ooh. So I made one of those real quick, then made the bricks. I made an arcane alembic for my Essentia setup and started making an alchemical construct. I kept dealing with the awful cycle of researching, then crucible crafting, then grinding viz for worktable crafting, and made alchemical constructs, a furnace, a boiler, and Essentia buffers. Now with all the preliminary quests finished, it was time to finally make the Infusion altar. I had the stone blocks and bricks needed and made 7 arcane pedestals for the setup. Lastly, I would just need this runic matrix. Ooh. The final piece of the Infusion altar, the runic matrix, required an Eye of Ender. I wouldn't be able to make these until I had an HV chemical reactor, which was a long ways away from me. There was no other way to make them, and they didn't drop as loot from any chest that I could find. I started to lose hope, but as it turns out, the solution was a lot simpler than I thought. Villagers.
What the Sigma?
Specifically, villager priests have a low chance to trade an Eye of Ender. I started flying as fast as possible, checking every village that I had found before for a priest with the correct trade, but none of them had it. So I settled on building this villager breeder. I kidnapped a few new friends. And placed them in their new home. Now, all I had to do was wait. Then I remembered that GTNH has this cramming mechanic where if 3 or more mobs are in one space, they meet God, so I quickly got the villagers to safety and redesigned the breeder with their comfort in mind. Now, all I had to do was wait, and I did not have to wait long.
Let's go! Oh my god! There it is, there it is, there it is! Oh, trade, get it. Get me out of here.
I have Ender in hand, and age earlier than intended, I ran to make the last part of the Infusion altar. With the altar made, it was time to finish the quests available to me, which led me to building a simple Essentia extraction and storage setup. I used all the alchemical machines and pipes that I made in earlier quests, and I can now slowly extract Essentia from items to use in Infusion recipes. My first goal was making Boots of the Traveler, a long-awaited upgrade to my piston boots. I continued on infusing new pieces of armor with rare materials, each piece taking forever to set up, and infused new Illumine lenses for my goggles. Then I was on to the final quest, the Corporal Attractor, a craft so convoluted that it took me a whole day. First, I had to research a ton of different magic theories and items to get the crafting path for each piece. Next, I needed a flawless yellow garnet. There was only a single way I could find for getting one of these, which was finding small yellow garnet ores in the Twilight Forest and praying that they drop the correct tier of gem. Each chunk only generates 2 of these small ores within a 30 block height range, with the possibility of a cave cutting off the few that got generated, so finding each one took ages. Once I finally found one,
Oh my fucking god. Oh my god, that's it.
I turned that exquisite yellow garnet into 2 flawless ones and infused a thaumium sword with a bunch of other annoying materials to make the Sword of Zephyr. I then infused that sword to turn it into a wand focus of Uprising, then that into a telekinesis wand focus, which I could finally use to craft the Corporal Attractor. After that, I just traded in some balance shards for a quest and chose to receive a Perdido magic node that I could place. And that was it. I was finally done. I can't make these urns since they required titanium from space, this abacus required HV quest to be completed, and these goggles needed a vacuum freezer not available in MV at all. So, minus those quests, I had completed every single early game quest that was available to me. Hundreds of hours of work and a destroyed upload schedule later, I was finally able to make those Reddit comments happy. Hopefully. It'll probably be a while before I take my third dip into GTNH, but when I'm back, I'll have repercussions to deal with for my recklessness with magic. But that's for another time.